So we're covering two films today because they go hand in hand. They are of the same franchise. So Unfriended one was from 2014, and it is about a group of online chat room friends find themselves haunted by a mysterious supernatural force using the account of their dead friend, directed by Levon Gabriazzi. And then Unfriended 2, known as Dark Web from 2018, is about a teen comes into possession. Teen? He's not a teen. That's like a grown man.
Yeah, no, he was definitely an adult person.
An adult comes into possession of a new laptop and soon discovers that the previous owner is not only watching him, but will also do anything to get it back. And it's directed by Steven Sesko. Yes, it's different.
I don't know. I just took that from the IMDb. So
Totally fine.
As
totally fine.
I'll say in my section, everything on the internet is not necessarily true. It's all kind of suspect. But here we are.
It's like those commercials where it's like, you can't believe everything on the internet. And it's like, they're like, this is my boyfriend. He's from France. And it was like a regular guy. And he was like, bonjour.
Bonjour. Like,
well, yeah, like bonjour.
Doesn't know how to speak French at all. That's funny.
Don't believe everything on the internet, including us. Like, we don't know everything.
Yeah, we're just actively learning all the times, and sometimes we learn the wrong thing because that's just how life is.
Yeah, I learned stuff while watching this, at least Unfriended too, because I was like, oh wow, this all checks out. This is all legit. So very fun. So in the first Unfriended, we follow a group of teens chatting online. This conversation and virtual hangout comes after the death of a fellow classmate. And throughout the film, we learn what led to the teen's suicide, as well as what part the teens we see played in her fatal end. The entire film takes place on a computer screen, which is really cool. And we get to glimpse the protagonist Blair's virtual journey in its entirety, from private messages, Skype windows, her music playlist, what videos she's watching, and her incredibly teen-inspired tabs, which featured Forever 21 and Free People. So I was like, oh my God, this is definitely 2014. And like Facebook, was at like kind of in its heyday at that time. I love how she would play a song right before she would get into a chat.
Yeah.
Like who did
right? I guess. I don't know.
I do. I play music constantly. Like when I'm in my Discord groups, you can see it. You can see what Spotify song I'm listening to. When I'm in meetings, playing some like lo-fi or some chill hop or something. But that's me. I was like, I know that's just because I have problems. This child, I don't think it's like we're just setting the
Forever 21 was such a 2000s time too, because it's like we were too young to know how awful the age of 21 actually was. So we were like, yeah, we want to be that forever. And the reality is very much no.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. What I really appreciate about this specific brand of found footage is the creativity. It can feel like a setup for failure at first because it's very limited with our point of view. But each death was interesting because we, like the characters, are confined to these small squares on a screen, so you can feel just as hopeless as they do. As they're getting picked off, you're like, what's happening? Like you just, like. Click back to the screen. I will say the one thing that felt really unbelievable was like every time she would go and chat and she would do something, everyone was quiet. Like they do that in the second one too,
where they're just like their voices just don't like you minimize it or put it behind a window and it's like none of their words come through. That's not how it works. You still hear them.
Like sometimes she'd be like, oh, and she'd be like in this private chat with her boyfriend, and you would not hear them, and they were talking. In the second one, at least, it seemed like he was silencing that window somehow, which is like, tell me how you do that, because I'd love to silence some of these Zoom meetings. And it's like, I'm here, absolutely, and it's like, put it over there.
Sorry, I was doing work. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Can you repeat? I missed.
I'm multitasking
can you rephrase it?
Because my task list is so long. I was not surfing the internet for random stuff.
Yeah. To the point, like, let me tell you this. I have to teach classes virtually, and a part of the curriculum, like a part of the rules that we have, usually it's just like, one person talks, we all listen, those kinds of things. And I had to act in the virtual space as if you were in a physical space, because people be out here like, okay, time to change my clothes, or like if you're on camera. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the horrors of the internet.
Yeah.
Anyway, when what starts as a harmless group hang spirals into creative and disturbing deaths after an unknown person joins the call, which is honestly very terrifying. Someone pops in, you don't know who they are. You're like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
Um, this virtual ghost wreaks havoc on them from beyond the grave and through a screen. These teens are no angels, and their sins are put on display. Secrets are revealed, and the truth comes to light. As the ghost begins picking them off one by one, we are experiencing those frustrating tech glitches synonymous with every Skype experience, such as cameras distorting, calls dropping, and audio not syncing up. You know, people falling out, all kinds of things. Like, I
Yeah.
don't think I've ever had a good clean Skype experience. It always pops up like, "How was your?" And it's like, "2. What do you?" I didn't hear anything they were saying. I find it funny that both of them are using Skype because we're so used to Zoom now, and
Yeah.
it has its own like problems, that we
Yeah.
know about. Blair frantically Googles what to do when a ghost contacts you through the internet while her friends meet their untimely demise, which I thought was very funny. I wish she was on Reddit.
Yeah,
I wish she
right?
was
Oh my
on. It was just
god.
like an anonymous board of some sort, and they were like, "Oh, of course, I've definitely had internet ghosts, and don't talk to them." And she's like, "Oops, already did that." And they're like, "All right, well then." It's like a hostage situation, but this time we do give in to their demands.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, One girl unalives herself off camera. A young and irritating boy dies by blender in a scene that still haunts Kat. And
Yep.
another boy shoots himself through, though by then it is revealed that the ghost has control of these characters. So each one of the, like, at first they're like, oh, she has epilepsy or something. And then it's like, oh no, okay.
It was also
There's a ghost.
very obvious that, like, they had made her drink bleach.
Yeah.
She had a giant
Yeah.
bleach container next to her.
Hmm. Yeah. But
So,
they're kids. I mean, and you don't
yeah.
think that. You don't think, okay, my friend who just got off the
Context
call,
clues.
you
No,
you
yeah.
got stress
We
brain.
don't have critical thinking skills at that age. Not much, at least. It's
Exactly.
okay.
In a scene that I thoroughly enjoyed, she, the ghost Laura, skillfully prints a message to Blair and her friend Adam, and it's been revealed at this time that these two were having an affair or had slept with each other in the past. It's weird to call it an affair when it's children. But
Yeah.
as her boyfriend Mitch struggles with Blair's infidelity and lies, he urges them to reveal what the ghost sent them because they just get this print, like their printer just starts going. And I was like, everyone got a printer? Like, what is this?
Yeah.
Um, but they insist they cannot. They really cannot show you what's on this paper. Like, you really can't have it. And in a moment of pure panic, Blair chooses Mitch over Adam because he's threatening to leave the chat, which will result in his death. And so she reveals the paper, and Adam immediately shoots himself as we read, if you show this paper, Adam will die. Which I was like,
Yeah.
that's dope. Like, that was a cool way to do that.
Yeah.
Because then we can, infer that what Adam had on his paper was the same, but about Blair.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting that like he didn't show it because he didn't seem like a loyal guy,
Yeah.
clearly.
It was just very
Um,
obvious teenager times, the entire experience. We're just
the
like,
whole
wow,
thing.
you couldn't wait 10 minutes in your feelings? No?
Yeah.
Okay. It's all right now.
But your feelings are all like 100,
I know,
and
I
this is
know.
everything.
I
And also
know.
people are dying. And I'm like,
Yeah,
where are
no,
the
it's like
parents?
a reasonable stress. Reasonable stress, but also,
Like, did they have laptops? Like, you could go to a different room, try to
yeah.
flag
No
whatever.
one in 2014 was raised by gentle parenting, and that's fine.
That's very true. And as absolutely messy as these teens were, as well as the plot, the deaths were really fun. There were times where I was truly curious and stressed. One scene had a new caller join in the conversation, this time with their video on showing a room through a latticed item, such as a laundry basket or trash can. And as the kids berate the silly ghost for leaving their camera on, they realize the video is coming from inside the house.
Yeah.
This, like so much of the movie, is a fun, albeit silly time. And the film doesn't try to have much in the way of reality or probability with its horror other than the technical glitches, but I still enjoyed it for the campy scares.
Yeah.
So, and it's definitely held up and people really still enjoy it. It is a cult classic of horror films,
Yeah.
honestly. Great gore, very creative, silly as all get out,
Yeah, you can't take it too
stressful.
seriously, but it's like a very good time. And it is
Yeah.
genuinely scary, like in moments where you're just like, "Oh god."
Yeah,
And the
it's just
who done it
stressful
element
teen
too.
stuff,
Yeah.
yeah. Because they just, and the whole time it's just like, but, you know, like, you this has to be also a teen ghost because, like,
Yeah, the petty.
teens don't know. Yeah, it's petty. I mean, it's real for them, right? But also, like, kids just don't know. Like, there's that whole documentary about the girl who told her boyfriend to unalive himself
Yeah.
through text messages, and I've watched, like, those documentaries about her, and it's like, they just don't get it, like, it's not
Yeah.
real in that way, so I that one breaks my heart, so for on
Yeah.
all parts of it. So, if you want, like, real horrors of the internet, that case.
Yeah.
Unfriended 2 takes the virtual horrors a step further by incorporating a more realistic monster. The film follows a new group of friends, this time adults, for their virtual game night, which is fun because this wasn't is normal now, but it wasn't in 2018.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's kind of
It's like
interesting.
pre-pandemic.
Yeah, hang out. Like, I
Still
don't know. I
doing.
was like, you live far away. We're not friends anymore. That's how that works.
Oh,
Um, but that's not how it worked for them. So our protagonist this time is Matthias, a man with a new computer, and he is seen re-entering his own passwords and bypassing the autofills on websites from the previous owner, one Nora C4.
yeah.
The fourth, Nora C. the fourth. Matthias installs a new program he's been working on that would allow him to better communicate with his girlfriend, who we learn is deaf. And this program will translate his words into sign language using videos he's recorded of him doing those signs, which I was like, that is rad,
Yeah.
and super helpful. But totally understand. She brings up the flaw in that is that it he does the signs to her, but he doesn't know all the signs. So when she signs back, it doesn't translate.
Yeah.
It's a one-way
It's
translation.
like
That's not
a
helpful.
easy it's like a Band-Aid.
Yeah. The problem is, like, if you really care, you need to learn sign language.
Yeah.
Period. This program will translate his words. Oh, I said that. Okay. We learned that he acquired this computer online to better run this program. However, the memory is overloaded and it runs glitchily. His tech savvy friend tells him he needs to run a program to find excess files to delete. And this is when Matthias discovers some hidden files containing videos and information. As this is happening, he is being inundated with pings on Facebook from Norris's friends and a woman named Erica Dunn. Erica
Yeah.
turns out to be a friend of Erica's who is using her account to communicate with the person who has stolen her computer, Matthias. So he didn't buy this on eBay. He stole it, or Craigslist, or wherever he said it was. So
Yeah.
while we learn about his theft, Matthias's friends question him about his lack of energy. He's very distracted. And one of the Facebook friends asked Matthias if he could fulfill a request for an exchange of money. And it appears Norris C has a lucrative business. He gets a bunch of reports or like messages from these girls. They're like, "Did you buy the plane ticket? I can't wait to see you." Like, this person's
Yeah.
living the high life.
I will say you
Um,
just delivered that line as if you were a professional newscaster, and it was very if full request of an exchange for money. Like, that's how you said it. It was great. It was good.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's like I've been doing this for 6 years.
Yeah, a
Um,
professional.
it's like those like newscasters, and you hear them like being regular, like, "Oh, ha, ha, thank you," and then the report said, and you're like, "Whoa, I
Yeah.
didn't do that."
Or they narrate, like, regular life. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's good, that's good.
the baby has cried since 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
Um,
This just in.
yeah. After being pressed about this computer, Matthias tells his friends that he's uncovered some questionable files. They watch together via screen share some of the very many videos on the drive. There's a lot, there's terabytes of it. And the videos seem harmless at first, although unsettling. Those of people in their homes doing
Yeah,
regular stuff, including like a baby sleeping, right? Like it's
yeah,
clearly a nanny cam or like baby cam of that sort. So it appears someone has hacked people's home cameras, and his tech savvy friend Damon explains they can hack in and even shut off the light that indicates the camera is on, so folks don't even know that it's happening. Um,
yeah.
I remember there was a scandal where this like school gave out a bunch of free computers to students, but then they
Yeah,
would
so they
hack into the
could spy on
camera.
them, yeah.
Yeah. And all the students were like, "Why is my camera on?" And then they would try to like write them up for stuff they did at home.
That's crazy.
Crazy.
In what world? And, no one read the terms of
Yeah,
conditions, so they're probably signing their whole things away.
always. So after looking at the last video, they see that a man has snuck into a girl's room, seemingly to show that he can and possibly to show off merchandise. The Facebook buyer requests a special event, that of trephination. which Matthias thankfully has to Google. And
Yeah, because
it is a, I was like, what? And thankfully he was also like, what? So we Googled it, and it is a surgical procedure in which a circular piece of bone is drilled and excised, most commonly from the human skull. So truly terrifying and dark stuff.
yeah.
This guy was like, can you do that for a large amount of money? And Matthias is like, what?
What do you
What is
want? Oh, whose computer is this? I don't
that?
want it anymore.
Friends? Something's going on here.
Yeah.
Um, Matthias's computer's former owner was a member of a dark organization on the dark web. He finds videos that hint at horrible things done to women, though thankfully he closes out of them before they become too much, which I was like, whew, thank
Yeah.
you. No need for it. We got it. We got
Yeah.
it. And in terror, the friends decide they need to alert the police. So, some spoilers abound. I spoiled the first one, but
Yeah.
it's still fun. You should still have fun.
Yeah,
Like,
even if you know, you're just like, "Wow, look at this mess.
you don't
I'm
know
just gonna
what they
enjoy this
contributed.
mess."
All you know is that they cheated, and that's you kind of know that the whole time.
Yeah. It's
So
fine.
spoilers, please. Like I say, watch it. It gets a lot
Yeah,
of
it's
hate, and
fun.
I'll explain why. But also, I think it was really fun. And if you don't know a lot about computers, you're gonna have a good time.
Yeah.
You're gonna be like, "Wow, that's cool."
Yeah.
So,
I'm
um,
terrified because that maybe could happen to me.
I
Excellent.
don't know, you know?
Check box.
So, spoilers, go watch it and, come back. Anyway, we learn that Erica Dunn is not Nora C's friend, but rather the latest victim of this dark web group. And this is when Matthias learns that Nora C, or rather Sharon Four, known as the guy who drives the boat down the river Styx,
Okay.
and petals in Greek mythology, they're all called
Yeah, yeah,
Charons
yep.
because they're in the river. That's what the dark web site was that they were on.
Got
Anyway,
ya.
Sharon 4, because they all have like numbers associated with them, knows where he is. Matthias is mad that he hasn't returned the computer and is going to kill his girlfriend.
Sure.
So things spiral out from there, and the friends begin dropping like flies.
Yep.
And unlike the spectral and unbelieving horrors of Unfriended, this film provides villains and deaths that, however absurd, aren't entirely fantastical. A little bit, but not entirely. You know, like
Yeah.
to a degree, a little more believable than a ghost in a computer. Google how to exercise your computer. It's like run malware. um, the friends are attacked or strategically taken out by these elite hackers, dark web organizational folks. They don anti-surveillance gear, which gives them a digitally spectral look on camera but they are incredibly real people. So, like at
Yeah.
first, it seems like, okay, we're back in the ghost world because someone gets pushed off of a roof, but then you see the tech glitches because it's which is also not exactly how anti-surveillance gear works. It's not a matter of like you're invisible to cameras, it's that you distort the cameras, so none of it would have
Yeah.
been used. But anyway, I thought it was cool that they even would wear that to give it kind of like a ghosty feel.
Yeah.
The way they undo these humans was incredibly unique and scary in an entirely different way than the first one. Where that one had absurd gore, clever glitches, and distortion, this film had the true horrors of the internet, doxing, and hacking. Straight up. That's it.
Yep.
Doxing, scariest thing. So the Sharons are able to locate each one of the friends, and they aren't shy to reveal just how talented they are by screen sharing their hacks with the group. So they watch as one Facebook post leads to an alma mater, to a listserv on a university site, and eventually to their friend's home. Like that's all it took, a few steps. Very reminiscent for me of playing Orwell, which is that video game where you're in a computer. So the whole thing takes place and you're in a computer and you use like people's social media to gain access to their accounts and to where they live and who they are, and you're compiling information. It's literally that. So I was like, that's crazy. And it's pretty like, I mean, they do it pretty quickly, but I mean, doxing is real and happens to people all the time in a really scary way. So that one I was like, whoa. One friend who is incredibly anti-social media and is seen in the beginning harping on the problems with surveillance is notoriously off grid. But given that he needs a platform to spout his mistrust of the government and the internet, he has a podcast because of course he does. It's like,
Of
yeah,
course.
like, you could complain about the internet, but also still be on the internet.
Yeah.
The Sharons then show the group various videos from his show, then slice up those videos to create a horrible message. And this message is a threat to the government, which they play on a phone call to 911, fully equipped with his address and name. So it's like, I'm going to come after the government. I'm, essentially branding him a terrorist and then being like, here's my name, here's where I live. It's
Yeah.
like, people be crazy or like, no, people be unhinged enough that they don't understand their actions. So not entirely disbelieving that someone would
Yeah.
make a call like that. So they actually
Oh,
realized
I mean, swatting is real, like, that's a real thing that people do, where they call, like, SWAT team on somebody with
Mhm.
false information.
Yeah. Well, this one was like him calling on himself,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, I'm just yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
but it's,
But
like, a real
like
thing that happens.
the government using picked out versions of things that you said, like misconstruing things that you said and then using that against you, like that happens all the time. People get
Yeah,
arrested for Facebook posts. Like I know
yeah,
someone who was like detained because of Facebook posts about Black Lives Matter.
yeah,
It happens. So and then you're like on lists, just because you were like, I hate that, we don't tax the rich. Oh gosh, how dare you? Anyway, you can say anything you want audio wise because they can't read audio feeds. It's all SEO, baby. Anyway, so
yeah,
they chop up these videos, they make a call to 911, and then the friends realize that the call had been made a while ago, like 10 minutes or so. And so the feds are actually
yeah,
at AJ's door. And as he walks with his hands up, shouting to the police that he will comply, because you know how well that works in America, the Sharons hack his desktop and download a sound clip, one of a shotgun cocking, and they turn up the volume as loud as it can go and let rip, resulting in the police, as trigger happy as always, to absolutely lay into him. And that is only one of the incredibly interesting and stressful deaths.
yeah,
It's crazy. I was like, that was phenomenal. I was like, it was
yeah,
so scary the way they did that. And I was like, and it's not like it is like a silly thing to happen on screen, but I was like, versions of that occur. Period.
yeah,
One person is forced to choose between her sick mother or her new fiance, while others are framed for the abduction of Erica Dunn. Turns out this isn't the only game night for this group of friends, but it's also for the dark web weirdos. And as someone who isn't computer savvy, I was very impressed with this film. Whereas I find myself rolling my eyes during certain silly found footage film techniques as someone who works in film themselves, I couldn't catch all the flaws in this.
yeah,
Was it unbelievable at times? Certainly. For one, what hacking genius has an autofill option on their computer, especially for their bank? Like that
yeah,
part,
that's
like
dumb.
there should at least be like you sign in, you have to,
Two-factor authorization, my guy.
yeah, or like I have a password holder thingy, but I have to sign into that. And then
Yeah,
it holds all my passwords. It's not just like on my browser, and that's like what it is. Like that's crazy. Like, and if you're gonna have like, if you're the kind of person who has cryptocurrency and you're doing incredibly shady stuff on the internet, there's no way you just let people do that.
yeah.
Like, and then you also want to just leave your computer there. Like, there's so many red flags. Anyway,
Where it's like, it kinda spoils the movie too because it was on
exactly. The spoilers. We're already in
because they
spoilers
wouldn't
town.
do that in any other
As soon as I got to
situation.
like a dark web like folder, I'd be like, okay, something's up because
Imma
why?
put
How
this
did I
back.
get there? Like how did me, regular, regular person, get to dark web on someone
Yeah.
else's? Like that's not like the no. Like I have
Take
no
the
illusions.
computer back.
I have no illusions about myself. I do appreciate that that both of these groups had like a tech friend that was like, "Oh, I understand. You got to get into the mainframe." Um, but I did have fun while also being quite worried during the film because I could suspend disbelief. I
Yeah.
People on the internet be hating on this film. It's like just suspend disbelief. Sometimes you could do that,
Yeah,
and
you
it's
don't gotta
fun.
think too hard about it.
Um, and an article on ARS Technica titled Unfriended Dark Web War Drives Straight into the Bad Tech Film Toilet. Writer Sam Makikovac explains more of the technical flaws that simply went over my head. Firstly, the problem is with AJ's theory that the videos are a result of war driving, which I had to Google. So thank you, CasperSky.com. And it apparently means war driving in cybersecurity is the act of looking for publicly accessible Wi Fi networks, usually from a moving vehicle using a laptop or smartphone, which is, I thought, what AJ explained. But Mackie Kovac was like, no, this is wrong. So he was like, not quite, but I don't know. And then he linked to another article and it was too techy for me. So
Yeah.
the term derives from the 1983 movie War Games, and in the movie, the character played by Matthew Broderick engages in an activity called war dialing, which involves using a computer to dial multiple phone numbers to identify a working modem. And war driving is seen as an evolution of this process. So essentially, like how
God, yeah.
they got access to those people's home cameras and like the baby cam and just like their computers and phones was like someone's driving through and able to access someone's internet because it's not like regular people have their password be password 123.
Yeah.
Um, which like what was the password in the beginning? Because it had to be something easy, which is also a red flag.
Yeah, he put in a bunch. I don't remember what it was.
He did try password. He tried password 123. So in that article, Mackie Kovac explains the film's logic, sadly, is already toast at this point. Why is Matthias entering his personal credentials into some laptop he acquired without wiping its existing contents to orbit? Which I was like, that's also super weird. I bought a used computer, and the only reason it wasn't completely wiped is because it had Photoshop on it, and I didn't want to buy Photoshop. And this was 2000 like 10. So anyway, yet Unfriended Dark Web still flexes its technical consultant muscles whenever possible. Eventual malware on this laptop mimics existing programs' takeover abilities and interfaces. Matthias runs terminal commands and Daisy Disk when he faces hard drive issues. Real and disturbing darknet marketplaces are name checked. And when it comes to basic technical questions, the film answers them with clear and accurate representations on Matthias's desktop. Cool. I'm glad it does that for you. The biggest exception is how the MacBook in question juggles multiple Facebook accounts without having credentials cancel each other out or requesting any two factor authentication. I wish the film had ended with some form of PSA reminding viewers to use the heck out of two factor authentication. Agree. I
Yeah.
definitely agree with those last points. Because you would need a different browser to balance two accounts on Facebook. Okay, I know that
Yeah.
much because I have to do that sometimes.
Yeah.
So unless your other account or whatever, like if it's somebody else's account, I gotta hop to different browsers. He
Yeah.
doesn't do that. He's on the same browser.
Yeah.
Um, and there are
Flaws.
oh no, I think it is kind of. I found it very interesting that at least like the things that they name drop, some of the terms they use are all pretty real. It's just like
Yeah.
how they're using
Tech.
them. And some of those plot holes are like, but how did we get here?
Yeah.
So there certainly are enough plot holes to sour anyone's experience, and mostly they have something to do with convenience and timing, right?
Yeah.
So like how do people get there so quickly and like how can you get into this computer, etc. But I think ultimately the film offered a fun and creative way to kill off a bunch of friends playing Cards Against Humanity, which I think was their only sin.
Yeah.
um, there is a bit of hate for the film out there, though. Tara Brady from the Irish Times said this of the film: figuratively speaking, Unfriended 2 puts a sheet over its head and says, "Woo, the internet is scary." It is seldom as scary as a sheet. There are a few interesting twists and turns, and the mounting horror of too many message alerts and unsolicited Skype friend requests is, as in real life, enough to elicit a sense of dread. And I
True.
get it.
Yeah.
People be roasted this film. I think it's very funny. "Oh, the internet's scary. Like it is though.
It is
Um,
though. Yeah.
I think the worst thing of this film is that it has four endings.
Yeah.
Okay. Apparently, theaters would play their endings randomly. I don't know. I saw an article that said that. I didn't read too much into it because I was like, this is dumb. So you wouldn't know you wouldn't know which ending you were gonna get. And I find this part really silly. Firstly, if you're gonna film four different endings, then we should have some say in which one we get. Like, let it be a choose your own adventure. That has happened. There have been films that are choose your own adventure to some degree, or simply
Yeah.
pick one. Okay, it sounds lazy. Like you don't trust yourself enough to pick an ending that you have. Like you don't get to have them all. There will always be a better ending between them. Um, like I'm looking at you, depressing alternate ending to The Descent,
Yeah.
much better, right? So don't put all the work on us to figure out which one it is. This isn't a video game, right? I'm not gonna watch the whole film to get a new ending. Like that's
Yeah, it wasn't that good, you know?
and the
They were
endings weren't
fine.
that different. They were
Yeah.
like very minutely different.
Yeah.
Except one was like a whole different kind of result, but every other one was like, here's they just die a different way. But
Yeah.
they get to the same, like
I
which
would be
one is
mad as
better.
heck if the only difference was they just die a slightly different way. I'd be
They do.
like, "Why did I waste an hour and a half?
The first
What do
one we
you
saw, he gets
mean?"
hit by a car. They vote, should
Yeah.
he die, that he gets hit by a car. The
Yeah.
other one I watched, he is buried alive, and the
That one
girlfriend
sounds
comes. That
scary.
one sounded legit because then he's like texting, he's trying to call her, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And then he's like, trying to text to her, and it changes the text, and then he's just like freaking out because he's suffocating. And I was like, "That's great." Then the
Yeah.
third one was he gets to the warehouse where his girlfriend is, which we saw earlier in the film, where they take some of the girls, and then he
Yeah.
like gets to know. He sees a gun, and it's essentially like they put up a vote: will he kill himself? Which is like,
Ah.
what? I don't know. And then the fourth one was he gets captured and the girlfriend is captured and they're like screaming and they're being held by these people and then they vote should they live and then they play like him threatening them and being like you should release Erica Dunn then I'll give you your money and they're like yeah he earned it and so they let him out.
Huh.
Those are the four for you listeners.
Yeah.
Now you don't have to watch that YouTube video of all four endings and wonder why they couldn't just pick one.
Yeah.
It's just like it's not fun. It's
Yeah.
not fun. It doesn't they're not different enough, you know?
Yeah.
This isn't Clue. So, while the first one is by no means trying to instill a fear of the internet in us, instead it's a tale against cyberbullying, I found the intentionality of the second one just as fun. I think virtual specters and hooded hackers can both be frightening. It would be truly terrifying to be pursued by an entity you cannot touch that also knows all of your darkest secrets, who could then force you to end yourself over those secrets. But it is
Yeah.
also terrifying to be met with the truths of the dark web. There are monsters out there who have found community with other monsters who then work together to harm people. That's
Yeah.
real. And sometimes that harm is murder and torture, but other times that harm is simply an invasion of privacy. Flat
Yeah.
out, also terrifying. So, for someone to so easily have access to your life, your digital presence, and image is horrifying. We've covered it many times on this show with all of our different episodes. So, I'm no stranger to the horrors of the internet. And so, we should be under no illusion that our internet presence does not belong to us and that we are at risk of losing ourselves and our livelihood always, all the
Yeah.
time. Whether we lose
Yeah.
that to sinister hackers or dark spirits of the net, the loss is still terrifying.
Yeah. 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 Scary, man. It really I what I found particularly scary about this movies plural, is just like it really does do a great job portraying the permanence of something that seems seemingly like not permanent.
Yeah.
Something that seems like it takes so little effort to destroy
Mhm.
yourself on the internet. It
Yeah.
takes you not thinking for 2 seconds of the future, and then that's this now, forever,
Yeah.
forever gone. And it's the same things as like with actions behind like the keyboard, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of detachment that we see that is also really concerning and scary. Uh,
Mhm.
and as you said, that literally at any point someone could be like, "I'm gonna go on your computer, look at all your stuff, and then maybe post some of it as if I'm you." And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know what you'll find. Like, I'm fine, honestly. I don't think there's anything in there. But also, like, what if
Yeah.
or what if they just like pretend they're you? Like this whole Twitter thing is a whole mess, which I'll like
Yeah.
very briefly
It's, like,
touch
funny, but
on.
also, like, scary, and I think
Yeah.
it's funny because people really use it as an opportunity to teach a lesson, because the whole point of, like, the verification, like, is to protect people so that they know who to trust. Like, a problem with, like, information and the way that's delivered and verifying it has always been an issue. Every time new technology is brought up, like when we first started having radios, like anyone can be on the radio, like anyone could have been on a station and they had to implement like rules because people would be like, okay, here's a miracle elixir, call in and give us all your money for this miracle elixir.
Yeah.
And they don't know, like you're like,
There's
okay, it's
lots
on the
of
radio, it
people
has to be
who
real.
yeah, who think like, literally hear the information and that is the end of the thought. Like, that
Yeah.
is the end of the research, that is the end of the figuring out if it's real or not.
But you also, like, trust
Uh,
it because it's coming from this source that was very new for people. Same thing with
yeah,
TV, when TV got new, who knew what was going on? Like, we had to put these regulations in place so that because people are just, like, dumb. And so that's why
yeah,
the horribly evil company that charges money for the life-saving drug insulin has lost billions of dollars in stock because someone pretended to tweet as them and said, "Now it's free," and everyone pulled out. And I was like, well, you know what? Now we can ask all the questions of like, why even? Is it
yeah.
any it's free.
Yeah, I
Anyway.
mean, that company can go broke, that's fine.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Um, yeah,
Um, but yeah, like that's why it's funny to see that versus like, it could have went a horrific other way where people were impersonating other people.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, and that's I think that's the way it's gonna go, unfortunately. But, like, from now on, like,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
even did it to Elon Musk, like, a lot of people
Yeah.
made accounts as him and then
Yeah.
were just tweeting crazy stuff,
And
and then
now they can't do it anymore. He
yeah,
removed
he was
all
like,
that
"Okay, it's fine until it's me, though."
yeah, comedy is now no longer allowed
Yeah.
because it
I
was
miss comedy, now it's here, but it's about you. I hate comedy.
comedy's bad, actually,
Yeah.
and we don't want it, so no more blue checks.
Defamation.
Blue checks are
Yeah,
gone.
the whole time. Um